What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero, back with another retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and this is very exciting because we're finally diving into Demise format, the format that I made a guide for just a couple days ago, and it's a fun time. It's based around SJC Anaheim in 2007 using the March 2007 ban list, and there's a lot of cool strategies you can do. The winning event, or the winning deck list of that event, that is, was Demise OTK, which is what gives the format its name. So I figured I'd take the winning deck list for a spin. This deck list was, created and piloted by Michael Songlok, and it's Demise OTK. So basically the idea is you use advanced ritual art to send normal insects to graveyard to bring out a Demise King of Armageddon. You pop the board, and then you bring out a Doom Dozer off the insects that you send. Then you've got other things like Megamorph and Metamorphosis to sort of turn this into a pure OTK. Because if you meta a Demise King of Armageddon into a Cyber Twin Dragon, that is 5,600 plus 2,800 off the Doom Dozer, so that is lethal. Same thing if you do Megamorph shenanigans as well. So this is a very, very cool deck. I think this deck list itself, there's a lot of things that I would change in sort of a modern re-examination of it. Firstly, there's no Confiscation or Snatch Steal, which are two very powerful cards in this format, and I think I'd probably include them in some part of this list. Also, Gravity Bind, while cute, is something that I'm not really sure is needed. Same with like Magic Cylinder. These are cards that like are fine. Magic Cylinder can get you closer to your win con, things like that. But if you're expecting other decks to be on Demise stuff, then like they're not really as good. Also, one of the decks that sort of arises later on in that year, Trooper format, which is the Troop Dupe Scoop deck where you play Trooper plus Machine Duplication, things like that. That can get under Gravity Bind, so it's a bit awkward there as well. So I would probably like cut some things here, add some things in. But overall, I think the deck is pretty cool. I'll go through a quick card by card. So triple Doom Dozer along with triple Insect Knight, double Neo Bug, and Metal Armor Bug. These are the normals that you're sending off of ARA, and these are the Doom Dozers that you're bringing out after you send those normals. We've got triple Manju, triple Senju, and triple Sonic Bird to search out all the different pieces of our combo. We got Sangan to search out the Manju, Senjus, or Sonic Birds, and we got triple Demise for our big guy that pops the board. Triple Advanced Ritual Art, this is the thing that makes the deck tick, but we also have a Contract with the Abyss in case we don't have normals left in deck, or, we're just in weird situations where we can actually pull this off. We've got a True Nade and a Heavy to clear away the back row. We've got double Megamorph for our OTK shenanigans. We've got double Metamorphosis, as I mentioned, to go into like Cyber Twin and things like that. We've got Premat to bring back our monsters after we send them. That's one of the use cases for Metal Armored Bug. You send it off the ARA, then bring it back with Premat. And then you got a 2,800 guy. We've got a Sword of Feeling Light and a Gravity Bind to slow the game down a bit. We've got Double Jar of Greed to dig deeper in our deck. We've got a Magic Cylinder to deal some damage to them and negate an attack. We've got Mirror Force and Ring to pop their monsters along with TT to blow up the board. And we've got Double Threatening Roar in case we're up against the OTK itself. For the side deck, there's a lot of stuff going on here. The side deck wasn't complete, I think. Or maybe it was. I don't know, the Fusion deck wasn't complete. That's what it was. Yeah, the Fusion deck was not complete, so I added into that. Doesn't really matter that much outside of the meta targets, but I just, made a complete Fusion package here, as well as adding Quagar Hercules at a level 6 that occasionally can come up in really weird edge cases. It is an insect, so important to know about. But the side deck is kind of interesting. You get double Decree for trap focus decks. You've got triple Pulling the Rug here, which is very good against Monarchs, against, Demise OTK itself, honestly, because you've got a lot of things like Sonic Bird, Manju, and Senju here. This can negate, which is very, very good because it shuts off their entire turn, basically. You get Reckless Greed, draw deeper into the deck. You've got Twister for Floodgates, as well as just certain decks that would play continuous spell to traps. You've got a Pot of Avarice here to dig deeper into your deck in a later game scenario. I think in the mirror match, this card is not really that good because you're both trying to end the game as quickly as possible. But in a general situation, it's pretty good here. We got a Zork in case we want to add another ritual monster into the deck. I don't really think this is the best thing in the world, but it is funny that we can play it. We got triple Nimble Manga here. This is just like a decent card. It sort of deck thins for you. It gains you life. So it's a neat card to include. We got double Mobius as well to pop our opponent's stuff. And that's going to do it for the deck list. The Fusion deck, as I mentioned, I sort of filled out here. It's just a bunch of meta targets. But the main things that you're going into is Cyber Twin Dragon here. Potentially, now there aren't really many 5s. You wouldn't really go into Fiend Skull. So yeah, it's more just Cyber Twin, Darkfire. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Gatling Dragon occasionally comes up as well, I guess. But yeah, those are the big ones that you'd go into. And everything else is sort of like for a weird edge case that we can't really do that much, except if our opponent has like creature swap shenanigans. I guess we could go into Dragoness off of Sangan, so that's something. But yeah, that's going to do it for the deck list. Let's dive into the games and see how we do. Okay, we got our first game here against Jim Bob, a frequent guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving into the game. We do win the rock, paper, scissors. And this is not a bad opening hand, honestly. We got Sangan search out our, Manjus and stuff, but we drew into Senju anyway, so we may as well just go for a Senju here. Then if we get into a Sonic Bird or Manju, we can do our ARA stuff. We got Doom Dozer, we got Meta. So that's the OTK online right there. Oh, I just realized I'm showing both. So, you might have a peek as to what they're doing, but they've got a Sonic Bird here. They're going to search out an ARA, add that to hand, and then they're going to attack in to this Senju here. I love that go through. I figure I want to save Mirror Force for something better, but I think I probably, in hindsight, should have gone for the Mirror Force there, because if they're on Demise as well, Mirror Force will not do anything against that, so might as well use it while I got it. But they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Manju there. We're just going to bring out a Sangan, attack in for 1,000, and get that going. So we're going to pass back to them, and they're going to think about this a bit and bring out a Manju of their own and search out a Demise. That's a bit scary for us. So I think Demise is imminently coming down, so now I do fire the Mirror Force, but I think this was also a mistake because I want to search out a Manju or a Sonic Bird off this Sangan as soon as possible. Because then when I can do that, I can go into Demise, bring out Doom Dozer, meta away the Demise into a Cyber Twin, and that's lethal right there. As is, because I Mirror Force this Manju there, I have to do some awkward stuff here. So what I do is I meta away the Sangan to then get out a Dragoness and get that search of a Sonic Bird. So I wouldn't have had to do this if I had not done this, and I think it would have been better just to like let the attack go through last turn. Yes, I would lose Mirror Force here if I go for Demise, which I am doing this turn, but it's still better than what I did here. So yeah, I could also just not Demise because they don't TT this. I don't use Prio because I figure if they've got Bottomless or TT or something, I still haven't, or I did Normal Summon this turn, but I can bring out Doom Dozer and just attack in, and I don't have to pay 2,000 life to do that. So I don't use Prio. They don't do anything here, and I think about this, and I ultimately do decide just to Demise. They do have a Raigeki break to pop the Demise, so that's a pretty cool inclusion to this deck that I do think will become more standard as people play around with it, because you've got so many things to search. You got insects you want to get engraved in other bricks and stuff. So I think Raigeki Break is really good. It also does stop Demise because you chain it to the effective Demise and pop the Demise, and that's pretty good for you. So we go for a Doom Dozer here. And while even with meta, we wouldn't have been able to get lethal from this, it still would have been better because it would have cut them off of any Demise shenanigans of their own. As is, we can't do that, and so we're going to be in a bit of a tough spot here. We set a Gravity Bind pass back to them, and they are going to bring out a Manju here, search out a Demise, and now they're going to get Demise in our stuff. So they're going to go for ARA here, and they're going to send double Neobug, which honestly we should have sent double Neobug as well because, Neobug is worse than Insect Knight in the deck. They're going to use Prio there, pop the board, go for Avarice as well, and shovel back 5. Now, did they have a way to deal with Doom Dozer in here? They did have Raigeki Break, so they would have been able to deal with Doom Dozer, even if, they weren't able to pay there, but we would have had our Gravity Bind online, and so it would have made things a little bit awkward for them. And so I think we honestly would be somewhat favored to win here if we had done what I mentioned earlier and let the attack go through on the Sangan, searched out the Sonic Bird, and add the ARA. But, you live and learn. As is, the only thing we can really do here is go for a Senju, search out Demise, and then just pass back to our opponent. And they're going to go for Raigeki Break, pop that Senju. So this is probably the end of the game. Yep, they got a Sonic Bird here as well. And that's just going to do it there. So that's going to be a good game one in the bag. Again, I think if we had played that differently, we could have, wound up in a different situation. But, it's kind of unintuitive, some of the things you have to do with this deck. So I'm still getting used to it at this point. But I'm going to draw into a Senju, search out Demise, and I cited in the Pulling the Rugs because Pulling the Rug is really good against this deck. And you'll see what I mean here. Or maybe not, because they're just going to bring out a Wang Yu. And Wang Yu is also somewhat decent against this deck. It's a little bit awkward because, we can still get our effects off the monster that we summon. And if we're going for Demise anyways, we don't really care about losing the monsters on board. But it is important that, it does deprive us from material on board. It prevents us from attacking in. And also, if they go for like a recruiter of their own, then our Pulling Rug is kind of, we can still use it, but like, yeah, it's just kind of awkward because it's not really like trading as favorably as it would be otherwise because they still, they wouldn't get these search, so that's something, I guess. But anyways, we're going to search out a Sonic Bird off that Sangan. I probably should search out Manju here instead, but either way, it's the same thing. And this is better, I think, later in the game because, if we somehow like lose our Demises and other stuff like that, then later in the game we can draw into a potential Manju and get a good thing from deck. So I think getting rid of the Sonic Bird now is pretty good. I misclick here and reveal that I've got the pulling, but it doesn't really matter anyways, because either way here, I'm going to go for the Demise, and I'm going to try and pop the board. They've got Raigeki Break for that, so, you know, again, showing how well this card favors, or trades into Demise there. And we're going to banish Double Insects into a Doom Dozer to just get in for 28. We could potentially Megamorph, but Megamorph is a bit awkward here because it does drop them down to 2,400, but they are still in Demise range, and also that will have our Doom Dozer here to 1,400. So I don't necessarily want to do that. I'm just going to get in for 28, mill a card, mill an ARA. I'm honestly fine to see that gone. And we're going to set the Megamorph as a bluff here. I figure if they're going to Demise me, then I'm not going to get a chance to use Megamorph anyways, but I think, honestly, I probably should have just kept it in hand, just in case. Because if they do go Demise here and they can't kill me, then Megamorph is a great way to get over the Demise and do stuff with that. But they're going to go for a Manju here, searching out an ARA, and I'm very scared at this point. But they're just going to pass back to us. So I feel very good about that. And this is one of the flaws with this deck, is that, like, you know, sometimes you just have to summon out a Recruiter and pray, right? Like, that's what we had to do last game, and that's what they have to do this game. We're going to go for a Senju here, searching out Demise, and then actually we're going to Megamorph equipped to the Manju there. And that may seem a bit weird, but the reason we do this is because this gets them down below 2,000 life points, and this means that they won't be able to activate their Demises here. So figured it's ultimately best to do that. We made a Doom Dozer, which was very nice because, well, they didn't have double Insects Engraved, but they probably could have gotten some Engraved. So this is pretty good for us. They're going to think about this a bit. They're going to banish 2 insects for a Doom Dozer. So actually, it was not nice that we built a Doom Dozer because that turned on their Doom Dozer. They're also going to bring out a Wangu here. They're going to attack into the Doom Dozer. They're going to attack into the Senju. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw Contract with the Abyss, which is very good. We're just going to go for that contract there, attributing a Demise for another Demise. This reveals the least amount of information because we already, you know, searched the Demise earlier. And we're going to pay 2,000 to wipe away the Wangu and try and get in for lethal damage. That will indeed go through. So let's check the hand. Yeah, they had ARA, Premat, and Neobug, which is not the most helpful thing in the world for them there. But still, you know, good stuff for us there. We were able to pull that one out. And we had to do some tricky stuff there to turn their Demise offline. But I still think it was pretty good there overall. But anyways, we're going second this game. We keep in the pullings even though we're going second because pulling is just so strong against this deck and you kind of really do need it. They go for Senju here. They're going to search out a Demise there. And then they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw into a Pulling the Rug. The only real option we have here is to go for a Senju. So we're going to do that. They've got Pulling the Rug. And we're going to set a Pulling the Rug, pass back to them. That's kind of all we can do here. They're going to go for a Senju. We will Pulling the Rug that because we got another Pulling the Rug in hand. So we can use that on what other recruiters they go for as well. They're attacking for 14. And they're going to set one pass back to us. We draw a Sonic Bird. Again, the only thing we can really do here is summon out Sonic Bird. We activate the effect. They've got Pulling the Rug. They'll shut off the Sonic Bird. We set a Pulling the Rug of our own and pass back to them. They're going to go for a Wangu here. We can't Pulling the Rug that. But Wangu isn't bad here. It's going to attack in for 14 and 17. And then they're going to set one, pass back to us. We draw into a Sangan here. Unfortunately, if we summon out Sonic Bird or Sangan, we're in a bad spot because they've got like any other monster summon out here. They get in for lethal damage. Now, to be fair, they got Wangu up, so if they've got recruiters of their own, they can't bring those out. So, you know, maybe I want to risk it. But I think given that I don't have a way to Demise either, I think the right move here is just to set pass. There also is the option of setting the Sonic Bird, going for meta into Darkfire Dragon to hit over the Senju. But I don't really feel like that's worth it. Because, you know, they just attack over with Wangu next turn. I've used up 2 cards here, and I'm in a really bad spot. So I think the only thing we really can do is just hope they don't really have another monster they can bring out here. We set the Sangan and try and get a search. This deck thins for us, and it also potentially gets us into a way to turn Demise online. They've got an Insect Knight, though, so that's a bit awkward for us here. They're going to attack in for 19 over the Sangan. We search out a Manju there, and now they're going to attack in for 3,100. So yeah, this is rough stuff. If they had actually attacked in with the Senju, then we would have been in a bad spot. And I think in general, you can feel free to do that because if I had an Insect Knight, I probably would have summoned it to try and attack over the Wangu. And that's the only real thing here in this deck that has the defense to actually wall up against a Senju. But yeah, I think either way, this is the safer route. I mean, I could have sided in like Legendary Jiu-Jitsu Master. That's not bad against this deck, honestly. But they've got Ring to close out the game here anyway. So even if I had gone for the aggressive play last turn with Darkfire Dragon, they would have just rung that and won the game that way. So yeah, it wasn't going to work out for us either way here. And our hand was just completely shut off by what they had. So that is one of the flaws of this deck, I think. No matter how much you add to the deck to sort of give some flexibility with things like Raigeki Break and stuff like that, The key piece of your deck is that your starters are all things like Manju, Sonic Bird, etc. And if your opponent just has good pulling the rug luck, like they're just able to shut you off completely, because this deck is very linear in what it does. It doesn't really have much options outside of like, some of your starters, and maybe you've got a lineup for like ritual stuff, but oftentimes you don't. You're just relying on your engine to get you there. And if they can stop your starters, then you are in a really bad spot. But that's going to do it for this match with the deck. And again, this sort of gives ideas for what to do in the future with this deck. I think Raigeki Breaks are a really good inclusion to improve the deck. And there are other things you can do as well. I mean, including like Snatch and Comfy are probably good as well. In Comfy, at least in the side deck, if you're afraid of like, oh, I don't want it if I'm going second, just bring it in when you're going first. But that's going to do it for this game. Let's dive into the next one now. Okay, we got a game against a Duelist who I'm not sure if I can say their name on the channel. I'm not sure if they'll demonetize me, but either way, we're diving into the game, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure this is their first time on the channel, but I could be wrong about that. They might have been on in the past, but either way, pleasure to have them on. And they're going to go first here. They're going to bring out a Card Trooper, mill 3, and luckily they just mill 3 spells, which are generally not what you want to mill with Card Trooper, but it's still getting deeper into their deck. This gets them a draw next turn as well, so a bit scary, but we've got a really good combo here. We can just go for Senju for the Demise. We've got ARA in hand already, so we'll send double Neobug here. We'll bring out the Demise, and then we'll banish those Neobugs for a Doom Dozer there. So I'm feeling very good about this. We attack in over the Card Trooper, and then we they mill the one that they just drew there because it happens during when the damage is being dealt, and then the Card Trooper happens when sent to grave. But it doesn't matter there. They just pitch the Sidra. Effectively, it shouldn't matter because the top 2 cards of your deck, like, they could be anything, really. But we just set a Jar and a Mirror Force, pass back to them. I figured, like, it's better to have these in case they somehow manage to break our board and go for an aggressive push. And, next turn, I'm going to be just demising and then attacking in anyways. So, might as well just set them there. They're going to go for a Stratus for Dix Commander, so it seems like they're on some sort of, like, hero deck. Maybe Trooper Hero or something like that. T-Hero. And they're going to attack over the Senju, set 1, pass back to us. We're going to go for a Jar of Greed here, draw a card, and then we're just going to Demise and try and get in for lethal. They do have Divine Wrath to negate the Demise, but we do have the Sangan to get in for lethal damage. So we were able to, we opened the God Hand, so it makes sense that we were able to like get in and do stuff here. But we're going into game 2. I feel like there isn't really much in our deck like to side against this, honestly. Pulling the rugs for Stratos, sure, but like outside of that, there isn't really much. And pulling the rugs is kind of awkward to bring in when you're going second. But we're just going to bring out a Senju here. We're going to go for Demise, just milling 2 not needle bugs, but Neobugs. We're going to bring out Demise like that. And I'm like, I can't think of what this deck plays that has a defense that can wall up against Senju. So I'm just going to attack him with Senju, then attack in with the Demise. Feels really bad to Demise here and potentially hit a Card Trooper. So I'm just going to go for this. And unfortunately, I didn't consider the DD Warrior Lady there. So we're going to take 200 there. And then main 2, we're going to think about whether we want to Demise. I feel like it's a very underwhelming Demise. So we're just going to set a Jar, pass back to them. If they switch the DD Warrior Lady to attack into our Demise, it's a bit awkward. But, we've got another Demise in hand. We can get into a potential way to get that online as well, especially with this Jar of Greed set here. We're going to pass back to them, and they bring out a Card Trooper here. They're going to go for a Machine Dupe as well, bringing out 2 more Card Troopers, and this is getting a bit scary for us here. So we're still not dead, I think, here either way, because if they go, DD Warrior Lady crash into the Demise and then attack in for, let's see, this is going to be 5,900. Yeah, 5,900. No, 5,700. 5,700, yeah. They attack in 5,700. We still got this to wall up a bit here, so it's a lot of damage, but we're not dead yet. Well, Snatch might make us dead here. Yeah, so they've got Snatch for the Demise. They'll attack over the Senju here, and this is more than enough damage to be lethal. So, yeah, and no matter how we had played that last turn, actually, it wouldn't have actually affected things here. So if we had gone for Demise, popped the DD Warrior Lady, they would have still been able to Snatch plus Trooper it. So, yeah, I mean, there's nothing we really could have done. I think, honestly, the way we played that turn last turn is the best we could have done there. Because I think in the most cases, it works out for us. But, there is the option where, I don't know, it's tough to say with this sort of hypothetical stuff. But I do think that we played that last turn the best we could have, even though it was not good enough to win the game there. So we're going to go into game 3 here. We go for Senju, search out Demise, and then we're just going to set a Magic Cylinder, pass back to them. And they are going to go for a Destiny draw, pitching a Mally, drawing 2. And then they're going to go for the Mally, banish that, bring out another Mally here. And now they're going to go for a meta on the Mally into Ryu Senshi. And that's a bit awkward for us because it shuts off Magic Cylinder, shuts off Mirror Force. So it's a bit awkward here. If we can get Demise and Doomdozer online, then we're in a good spot. But if we can't, then it's kind of awkward. They're going to attack in to the Senju here, and I actually make an interesting play. I go for the Magic Cylinder. You might be wondering why I'm doing this. The reason why I'm doing this is twofold. One, Magic Cylinder ultimately mods to like burn damage, so I'm just getting in burn damage here while I can, even if they pay 1,000 to negate this. I mean, that's still pretty decent because that's what this card kind of wants to do in this deck, right? And the other reason is I've got Heavy Storm. So if they set a bunch of back row here, I can heavy it away, especially if I'm going for a push with Demise. I'd like to do that before bringing out that card because we do see that they are on ways to stop Demise like Divine Wrath. And so it is just good to clear that before anything can happen here. So they're just going to pay the 1,000 here. And then attack over our monsters here. So we'll take 600 from the Sentry and then 1,800 from the Stratos. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw Doomdozer, which is not the best here. We're going to set the Heavy, Pro set Heavy Storm, and then we're going to pass back to them. They're just going to attack him for 38 again. And now our Demise is shut off as well, but we can potentially draw a way into it. Okay, Sonic Bird is a way into it, so we're going to go for Heavy on that back row. Hit a Curse Seal, so I'm very glad we did that there. We're going to go for Sonic Bird, adding that ARA to hand. And now we can potentially get things popping here. We go for ARA, send double Neobug, go into Demise there, and then we're going to banish 2 for a Doomdozer. Now we can meta away this Demise, which I think I will do. And I'm going to go for a Cyber Twin. I debate going into Gatling here because I can potentially pop their board and get in for some damage. If I get like 2 heads, that's 2,600 plus 1,400, which is 4,000 plus 2,800, so that's 6,800 maximum. But I figured like this is still good enough, right? This gets in for a fair amount of damage either way because Cyber Twin is basically 5,600 and the total amount of attack that they have on field is 3,800. So realistically, I'm only losing out on 800 damage there from what we're doing here, and that will indeed be the case. So they're going to drop down to 1,000 life points exactly, and now main 2 we can set this Mirror Force pass back to them. They're going to go for a Snatch Steal on the Cyber Twin and then brink on the Doomdozer. So if we'd gone for Gatling, they would have potentially been shut out of Doom Braincon range, that is. But, we would have had to get exactly 2 heads, which is not the most likely thing in the world. They're going to attack in over our Sonic Bird. We got to Mirror Force this. That will indeed go through. And then main 2, they're just going to banish a Mally, bring out another Mally here. And then they're going to tribute that for a Zaborg, popping our Sonic Bird and pass it back to us. And we draw a Metal Armored Bug. I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. We don't have 2 insects engraved, so we can't bring out the Doomdozer in hand, and that's just going to be the end of the game. That is the downside to playing this deck, is that if it gets into sort of like a grindier game, or you can't kill your opponent quickly enough, then they will be able to kill you because you just draw into bricks, which is kind of rough. One of the major flaws of the deck. And it's why, I'm not the biggest fan of this deck, honestly, in this format. I know the format's named after it. I know it won the event. But, I do think it does have just some fundamental flaws. It's still a deck that can, win games occasionally, but, the flaws are just so rough. And some people are fine accepting those flaws, right? But, for me personally, it's not my sort of deck that I like to play. But I got one more match with the deck, so let's see if we can actually take a match before ending the video. Okay, we got our final game here against PJ Darkness, a freaking guest on the channel. Always a pleasure to have them on. We're diving into the games, and we got a intense rock, paper, scissors before we start, and we will be going first here. So this is a really good hand, honestly. We just need a way to get into Demise, but we're just going to go Jar and Threatening because, there are a couple reasons I do this. One, I don't know what deck they're on, and if they've got a Demise OTK deck of their own, having the T-Roar setup is pretty good. 2, if they've got Heavy in the opener, I want them to Heavy this, and then I go Jar and T-Roar, and I get pretty good value off that. So either way, I think this is a pretty good start. I don't need to really be Mirror Forcing right away, so I'm fine with this. They bring out a Stratos, going for a Mally here. And then they're going to de-draw the Mally, so that's kind of rough for us. Draw 2, and they're just going to attack in for 18. They could potentially also brought out a Mally here, attacked in for 8. But they got Comfy to rip apart our hand a bit here. So they're going to rip out that Demise. So now our hand gets a little bit worse here. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. And we go for a Jar of Greed there, drawing into a Sonic Bird. So we also draw into a Manju, so we have ways to get back into Demise stuff. We're going to go for that Sonic Bird there. Searching out that ARA. And then we're going to think about this and ultimately just pass back to them. I feel like, we got T-Roar if they mount a big offensive pressure here, and I really don't want to play into a Pro set Heavy Storm. So I feel pretty good about this overall. They go for D-draw, pitching a Disc Commander here, which is pretty good. They're going to draw 2, and then they're going to go for Pre-Mat on the Disc Commander, most likely, draw 2. I feel like they probably should go for Mally at some point in this combo before doing this, because they're drawing a lot of cards into potentially another copy of Mally, which you never really want to draw. But this is also fine. They go for a Jinzo here, so that's kind of rough because they shut off our T-Roads, they shut off our Mirror Forces here. They also go for a Designator Malicious here, and then go for a meta to bring out a Dark Blade, the Dragon Knight, to potentially banish things from our grave. It also does have more attack than Senshi, and you got the Jinzo up, so it makes sense why they go for this instead of something else. They're going to attack in for 400 over the Stealth Bird, then attack in for 2200 with that Dark Blade, the Dragon Knight, banish a Demise and a Bird, and then attack in for 2400 with the Jinzo. They're going to pass back to us. We draw a Doom Dozer here, so that's actually, about as good a draw as we can get. We're going to search out that Demise, and then we're going to go for ARA here, milling double Neo Bugs, and bringing out a Demise here. We can't use the effect, but what we can do is banish 2 insects here to go into a Doom Dozer. We're going to meta away that Demise, and then bring out a Cyber Twin Dragon, and then we go for Megamorph on the Cyber Twin. The reason I go for everything here is because if they've got like a Book of Moon or something for our Cyber Twin, I still want to be able to clear the Jinzo to turn on my traps. So yeah, luckily they don't have a Book of Moon. We just attack in for lethal damage here with that Cyber Twin. We got to attack in a specific order because there's a potential chance that if we attacked over the Stratos, they drop down below our life point total and then have our Cyber Dragon. But either way, this should be fine. So that's going to be the end of the game. And yeah, we're going to go into game 2. So that was a pretty good game 1 for us. Will we be able to win the second one though? And this hand, this hand's like fine. We bring in the Momongas because like I feel like Momanga is like generally decent, gains us life, deck ends for us, and against this deck, like I don't know what to side against this deck, honestly. Like this, there's not really much in the side deck for like heroes, which is kind of surprising, but I guess there's a lot in it for like Demise decks. But yeah, I'm just gonna set a Mirror Force and a Jar. If they've got a Heavy Storm, they got a Heavy Storm. I can chain Jar and get some value off of it, but either way, I think it's fine. They go for a Snatch on the Senju, and then tribute summon out a Mally here. Always rough when you got to do that, but they're going to attack in for 8 and drop us down to 7,200. They're going to pass back to us. We draw an Insect Knight here. So we're just going to run out an Insect Knight and try and hit into that Mally. Unfortunately, they've got Crush Card Virus. That's another feature of this format. Cool that we get to show it off in the first video for it. So we lose basically our entire hand except for the Momongas. Momongas can help us stabilize a little bit here, but it is kind of rough. So that's the first turn on Crush Card. They're going to go for a Mally here. They're going to tribute that for a Senshi, and I do just chain a Jar. I guess they could have gone for a Dark Blade as well here, but I feel like Jar is just better to get out now in case they do go for the Senshi. I want to be drawing into our deck deeper, even though this will be checked by Crush Card. I draw into an ARA, which is pretty good. Now if we draw into a Manju or a Senju, we've got our Demise online. So that is one of the nice things about this deck. It can play around Crush Card a little bit because all of your searchers are, less than Crush Card checks for. And also, when you search cards to hand, it doesn't actually, send them for Crush Card there. But we draw into an Insect Knight, so that will get destroyed. And then we set a Momonga here, pass back to them. They go for a card trigger here, milling 3. And this gives us more info on their deck, I guess. Seems like they're playing tomatoes, so we will have to consider that. But they're going to attack into a Momonga here. We gain 1,000 off that. Then we bring out 2 more Momongas from our deck thinning a bit more. And they're going to attack in over this Momonga, and we gain another 1,000. And then they're going to pass back to us. We draw into a Pot of Avarice, which is pretty good here because we do have a ton of cards in grave, and this can help us reset our Momongas, which is very nice here. So this is awkward because, again, it's checked by Crush Card here. This is the last turn on Crush Card, so ultimately, we could potentially save this for the next turn, but I do think that adding back those Momongas to the deck is very important here. So we will shuffle those back in as well as the Demise, a Senju, and a Doom Dozer. It's a bit risky. I probably should have added one of the Insect Knights as well because you want normal monsters left in deck to bring out the Demise. But I figure it should probably be fine overall. We draw into a Pre-Mat and a Demise, so we can potentially bring something back from grave. We can bring back an Insect Knight potentially and beat over that Card Trooper. But I don't really want to do that because I feel like, it gets them a draw. Not really worth doing. So I'll save Pre-Mat for a later point. So we ultimately just decide to pass back to them and see what they do. They're going to mill off the Card Trooper, milling 3, and then they're going to tribute over that Card Trooper for Zaborg. So I do get a little bit punished for holding the Pre-Mat there because they would have had to tribute the Senshi instead of the Trooper, and if they'd done that, then the Mirror Force would have been online again, so it would have been much better to do that. But, you live and learn. I do still think there are arguments to not doing the Trooper, but we did not see a Zaborg out of them game 1, so, you know, I think it's fine not playing around it. But we go for a Momonga here, and we actually do decide to crash into the Senshi right now. One, because we take less damage overall, because they could just attack with Zaborg instead of the Senshi. And two, if they've got like Brain Con or something like that, we just lose the game on that. So we will just go for Momonga here, bring out 2 more Momongas, and hope that that is enough. We're going to set a jar, pass back to them, and see what they do here. So they're going to go for... What are they going to go for? They're going to think about this and go for another Zaborg over there. Zaborg, popping a Momonga. They'll attack in over the Momonga there. So we do gain 1,000 life, but now we're taking 2,400. So we're down to 600 life. Pretty scary spot to be in. They're going to set 1 pass back to us. We draw Manju here. So ultimately, I decided to do something a little bit clever, or not clever, but a little bit cheeky, because I don't think this is what I should have done. I go for a jar there. They will negate it with the Sentry. I'm just trying to get in some burn damage here because I really want to accelerate the gameplay here, because we are in a very scary spot. So I go for a Manju here. I go for the Demise to go into that, offsetting Neobugs there, and I attack over the Sentry. So that'll get in for 400. I honestly did not expect that to go through, but now our Mirror Force is online, and we'll pass back to them. The reason I shouldn't have done the jar is because, 1, I could get a draw off it, and 2, you know, now we've just got 1 back row, so if they do like a Dust Tornado or an MST, they can just hit the back row, attack over Manju, and win the game. So I think I should not have done this. They go for smashing, though, and pop the Demise, and now they'll just attack over our Manju. We got to Mirror Force that. And they'll go for a call, so that will just be the end of the game. So it wouldn't matter there, ultimately, whether we had the jar or not. I guess we could have jarred after we attacked with the Sentry to try and draw into something good. So maybe it would have mattered there, but like either way, I don't really think there was a good way to protect our Manju. So we are going to be going first in the final game. And let's see if that is good enough for us. I mean, this is a pretty great hand, because we got multiple ways into the Demise here. We're going to go for a Sonic Bird into the Advanced Ritual Art because Manju is more flexible, so we might as well use the card that's less flexible right now. They're going to think about this a bit, and they're going to set 1, set another, pass back to us, and we are going to draw into a Senju. So we're getting all the ways to get into our engine here. We go for an ARA and hit a Neobug and an Insect Knight. We got another Neobug in hand, so can't send 2 Neobugs here. We're going to go for Demise, pay 2,000, and that will indeed go through. We're going to think about exactly what to summon here, and we decided to summon an Insect Knight just to get in more damage here. We could have also gone for a Senju instead, just to search out our deck a bit, thin out the deck, but we do know about tomatoes in their deck, so I don't necessarily want to do that. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, because, like, we do still have Demise to banish things, but, like, I think it is fine just to go for Insect Knight here for a little bit more damage. And this is like a 2-turn clock, basically, because now if we go for Demise on this turn, we can bring out one of our recruiters and get in for over lethal. I guess we could have done the same sort of thing if we had summoned a recruiter here and then summoned that Insect Knight instead after going for Demise on this turn, but like, I think this is fine. They set 1, set another, pass back to us. We go for Demise here, pay 2,000, blow up the board. Not the Demise does stay. And yeah, now we have lethal damage here, so that'll just be the end of the game. And, you know, this is what the deck does when it's firing on all cylinders. Like, and I mean, to be fair, our opponent did not really have the tools to deal with it this game because they drew into Mali, double to Borg. But I do think that, like, Demise, like, when it's running well and as intended, and you're drawing, like, the things that make it work, it can be very good. I mean, as seen in this game here, this was, like, not even close for us. But if your opponent draws well, it can just turn off your plays entirely. And that's my biggest issue with the deck. I think it's a fun deck. I think it's a fine deck. I think if you bring it to a tournament, you can maybe top with it. But I think that, honestly, it's a bit too inconsistent. Even if you add consistency cards, it still feels a bit awkward to me because it's just such a linear game plan. And some turns just really do come down to, I just summon a recruiter and pass because I can't do anything else this turn. You know, my hand is just all of the recruiters or ritual spells or ritual monsters or doom dozers or things like that. And while that is what the deck is supposed to do and how the deck functions, you got to like set it up over a couple turns with the recruiters. It just feels so underpowered compared to some of the other stuff that you can do in this format. And if you want an OTK, there is the Troop Dupe Scoop OTK that you saw in the second match we had, which is a little bit less investment, a little bit more flexible in what you can do, and also doesn't cost 2,000 life points to blow up the board. But that's just my 2 cents on the deck. I might revisit the deck in the future with some of the innovations that we saw Jim Bob have here in game 1 there, and just put my own spin on it. But I'm curious what y'all think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this deck. Do you think that I should rename the format because clearly the deck is not that good? Or do you think that this deck is actually too dominant and like, through a combination of misplays that I made and just, bad deck building decisions. Not to say that the original deck was bad deck building, but I think it's more antiquated deck building is what I'd say. Just through antiquated deck decisions and also misplays on my part, it made the deck look worse than it is, and the deck is actually tier 0. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. And also, if you want to play games in Demise format or any other format that I feature in the channel, head over to the YG from Zero Discord server. Link in the description down below. We'll be holding a monthly tournament for Demise starting next month. Date TBA. So definitely keep an eye on the channel and keep an eye on the Discord for that. Also, big shout outs to my patrons, Rinspin, Porkchopkin, Brendan Donker, Tyler Compton, GeoMy, Fets, Dumptruck, and Scout Zero. It means a lot that you all support me this way and encourage me to make more videos like this in the future. I hope that you all enjoyed as always, and until next time, I've been Ben from YG from Zero. I'm signing off.